after World War II, the country expanded largely due to the building of the interstate highway system. As people drove those highways in greater numbers, something else was suddenly growing: the American gas station. Now, everyone could travel from small towns to urban cities. People could stop for a soda, refuel, stretch a bit, then continue on their journey. But during that time, one man took the idea of a gas station and changed it forever.
And this is a new record. This is 1998, $10.8 million goes to the coworkers, 40% of our pre-tax profit. This guy,
a bigger smile.
This guy's getting a better smile now.
One of my favorite things about Don is that he doesn't walk around saying, like, I'm the boss of this place. Like, he calls everyone his coworkers.
Don shows up for one reason and one reason only: the coworkers.
Mutual friend of mine and Don's called and said, Don Zietlow wants to talk to you about a job. And my exact response was, I don't want to go pump gas.
I was born on a farm near Chaseburg, Wisconsin, which is about 10 miles southeast of La Crosse. My dad died when I was 7, and my mother remarried in 1947, moved to another farm. My brother went to school to be a minister. My mother thought I should be a minister. After my 10th grade, the dean came and said, Don, you're not coming back. And the problem that I had is I stuttered from the time I started to talk, I was 32 years old. So he said, you're never going to preach a sermon. So my first speech was the dimensions of a 2x4. And so I got up there, and it took me 2 minutes. It's a 2x4. And after 2 minutes, I was able to pronounce 2x4. And so then every week I'd stand in front of a mirror and speak to the mirror, and eventually after 2 years I got over my stuttering.
One of the common complaints we get at Kwik Trip from our guests is, oh, you're just a big, bad, large company. Now, they perceive that because we have so many Kwik Trips in our market. They don't understand that we're family-owned, and that the family that owns us takes almost no profits out of the company. It all comes back to us. We treat all of us like family members internally. I think that message still needs to be heard.
I went to work for my stepfather on a farm between here and West Salem. Got married. We had a first child a year after that, and we couldn't live on $125 a month. So I got a job delivering groceries for a company called Gateway Foods. Life was good. So I kept on driving that truck, and I got back to La Crosse about 9 o'clock at night, and I still had to unload 30,000 pounds of meat. Now, I was tired, and I was complaining to myself, and the guy that ran the meat department was in the office. I didn't know he was there, and he came out and said, Zietlow, if you're going to work for a company, work for a company. If you're going to damn the company, then quit, and then you can damn the company all you want. And what a change it made in my life, an attitude. I sat down that load of meat, and I said, well, if I ever own a company, I'm going to share the profits with the people that make the money for the company. In 1989, I became 2/3 owner of Kwik Trip. And I remember what I had said in 1958. If I ever owned a company, I would share the earnings with our coworkers. So I went to my wife that night, and I said, listen, you know, we can buy this company, but what I'd like to do is share the profits with our coworkers. And she was fine with that.
From one gas station 57 years ago to a campus and headquarters that spans over 130 acres today, Kwik Trip has seen unprecedented growth and expansion. Over 800 stores in 5 states, employing over 35,000 people. Shipping and receiving, daily food and fuel deliveries, food production facilities, and a food testing lab are all part of that vision.
So at the La Crosse, Wisconsin campus, a lot of the Kwik Trip vertically integrated functions happen, and that's really Kwik Trip performing things to support our stores. And so a lot of what happens here is our production departments are baking bread and making donuts and bottling milk and making ice cream and soup and pizza. And the store engineering group has a warehouse here. The IT team is stationed here. And the real purpose of the campus here is to support and facilitate what's happening out at retail.
With growth comes technology and innovation. But Kwik Trip still sees one resource as a valuable contributor to their success: the local farmer.
A lot of our milk comes from here in the La Crosse area. We try to get that milk from the belly of the cow to the customer in 24 to 48 hours.
My day starts in the morning getting up at 3:30 and checking on cows that are calving and talking to the workers and scraping dry cow barn and cleaning feed alley. And I lost my dad, and so then I decided to drop out of school at 16 and stay home and farm with Ma. And so then we grew to 80 cows. Things just kind of kept going from there. We started direct ship in 2017 to Kwik Trip, and so we ship about a tanker load a day, a little over.
You know, it's pretty fortunate of us to be able to produce milk for our community, essentially.
It's very important, our relationship with Kwik Trip, and you know, having a place for our milk every day. I mean, that there's an empty tanker in the yard every morning to fill, you know. Yeah. Because if the tankers are full, we're at a standstill.
Yeah, they're very good at making sure that milk is as fresh as possible. You know, they pick it up at our farm this morning, and you know, they're processing it today, and it'll be on your table hopefully by tomorrow or the next day.
In our small communities, Kwik Trip has taken the place of those neighborhood grocery stores.
So you can stop in and refill on bread, eggs, milk, bananas, and take it home and be good to go for the week.
In 2002, we sold no food. Today, food that we sell, which is food you eat before you get out of the parking lot or take home, is 35% of our sales.
I think Kwik Trips are amazing for those areas that don't have a lot of access to food, the so-called food deserts. Having those in those type of communities, or even in just really small communities where you have to travel a lot, it just makes life more convenient for the people of those communities.
Food safety is in our top 2. The one thing that Don talks about, has been talking about for 20 plus years with the coworkers, there's 2 things that could hurt Kwik Trip. Number 1 is decay of our culture, if we cease to do good for our communities. And number 2 would be if we get somebody sick with food.
Before I was hired, Don used to toss and turn when he got into food, not understanding whether or not we knew what we were getting into. A couple of years after I was hired and we built this laboratory, he realized we had systems out there to mitigate risk. He used to toss and turn when he would go to sleep, and it was primarily because of one of these events, either decay of the culture or a food safety event. Now he doesn't toss and turn about food safety anymore. Maybe I can say I do. You can create systems that can mitigate risk along every stop along the food supply chain. So that's the reason why we have this food safety system. Why would we do that? Because science doesn't lie. It's very black and white. So we have all these systems in play, but we use the science at the end of the day to validate that the systems are actually working throughout our supply chain.
I think so many people love Kwik Trip because they have a consistent experience in all 820 stores.
My name is Cassandra Berger, and I am Kwik Trip's #1 fan.
My obsession with Kwik Trip started Probably 10 years ago, like that's when I really kind of became obsessed, a healthy obsession. So they have great service, they're reliable, you know that they're going to be clean. I hear all the time that people will drive out of their way to go to a Kwik Trip instead of another gas station that won't be named. So I'd go to Kwik Trips on Friday nights at 10 p.m. And so that's kind of where I fell in love with the food that Kwik Trip has to offer. So it took me about a year to visit all of the Kwik Trips in Wisconsin and documented the whole thing with my KT Bound with Cassandra YouTube series.
And gotta say, she's the biggest Kwik Trip fan there is out there.
Hey there, it's KT Girl, back at it again. I'm actually getting my very first tattoo.
Again, that just started with us seeing a video from her that she sent into social. So we took that, we shared it, we said something about her being our best friend, and since then she's just worked with us on multiple little projects here and there.
Social media has played a huge difference in how we communicate with our customers.
Yeah, right now, combined through all of our organic platforms, we have almost 1 million followers, so around 900,000 followers.
Yeah, even the other day, I saw a comment from someone who lives in Texas. I think they just came across our page and thought that we were the other Kwik Trip with a Q, and they were like, you know, you might not be them, but I like your content enough, so I'm gonna stay here. And I was like, you know what, that works.
You could win this Revel. This is a Mercedes chassis. It's Jesse. Cassidy. This door feature is super easy. Just look.
Hey there, ladies and gentlemen, it's KT Girl, and I am here with
Don Zietlow.
KT Guy, right?
Don has actually come to one of my lacrosse games, and he brought my team 90 Glazers from Kwik Trip, and that was pretty special that he was able to come to that.
The only place you'll find my name in the Kwik Trip is in the bathroom. If it isn't clean, they call me. I return all the calls.
Pretty weird that you can find his name in there and actually contact him about your experience.
10,900,000 customers last week. I got one call. That's one too many.
Since I was able to go to 457 stores in Wisconsin, every time I would stop, I would ask the coworkers, like, hey, what's your favorite thing about working here? Or hey, like what? And they all just said how much they truly enjoy the environment and the culture that Kwik Trip has.
Internally, we refer to each other as coworkers. As a matter of fact, we're hard pressed for any of us to say, what's your title? I guess I'd have to look at my business card to tell you that. If you go in our parking lot, you won't see reserved spots for vice presidents and any titles associated. The reality is that every single one of us is important. You remove one of us out of the cog and the wheel doesn't turn.
We're really focused on our guests, and they are our family. So when they come in, we get to know them, we know what they're looking for, and we put all of our focus onto them. In addition, we put so much focus into the love for our coworkers that I think guests see that, and there's not a lot of industries nowadays that look to help their coworkers, to make sure that their coworkers' lives are getting better while working there.
I think what separates Kwik Trip from the other convenience stores is the fact that we have well over 34,000 coworkers that run the place like they own it, because the profits come back to them. So they know if they treat that customer well, that customer is going to come back. They know if they deliver a great experience, that customer is going to come back. If the food is phenomenal, that customer will come back. And that's their profit. So they run the place like they own it. When you have 34,000 owners, it makes for a great company.
It's like part of my routine. Come in here, get caffeinated. The double shot is definitely a perk. Gets me through the day.
They're locally owned, you know, and I think as a private ownership and being from Wisconsin, I kind of like to support them.
They have a pretty good variety and everybody's nice in there. They do a good job cooking the food.
It's really convenient. They have a lot of great items. The people and the staff are very friendly, very courteous, and it's just a great place.
So if you need food, you know where to go. If you need coffee, if you need soda, basically it's almost like a mini supermarket.
And I'm someone who's constantly on the go. So every time I go into Kwik Trip, I know what to expect. The bathrooms are clean, which is a huge perk when you're traveling for work. I'll go a little bit further to stop at a Kwik Trip just because I know what to expect.
I can't find one bad thing, to be honest with you.
You always heard the line that the customer comes first. I'm not so sure we always believe that at Kwik Trip. We believe that our coworkers are also as important as the customer is, because if we don't treat our coworkers with compassion, we can't expect them to work an 8-hour shift and be compassionate with the public.
And yes, in capitalism, you have to make money to stay in business. But that's like you eating or breathing. That's not your goal every day. It's just something you have to do to stay alive. You have bigger goals than that as a person.
We only have to take care of two people. The family's got to take care of our coworkers, and the coworkers have to take care of our guests.
One of the most touching examples of our profit sharing here at Kwik Trip was at Christmas time. Don received a letter from one of our coworkers in the Madison market, a single dad of 3 young daughters. And he wrote Don a note and said, "I want to thank you for the very nice contribution you gave me at Christmas. And because of that, I was able to buy beds for each one of my daughters."
And so I got a letter from each of the girls, say thank you for the bed. This is the first time we ever slept in a bed.
If we take care of our coworkers as ownership, our coworkers will take care of their guests, and we'll be successful long, long into the future.
The one thing that I don't like as a Kwik Trip coworker, especially in public relations, is dealing with those guests that are incredibly angry at Kwik Trip for a reason that I don't deem is really realistic. And part of it's because I naturally get defensive. It's my company. And so I know I have to work hard to really be a compassionate listener to that guest. Well, we had one of our guests come to our store with a half gallon of 2% milk and said, "You pride yourself on fresh milk? This is disgusting. This is bad milk. Smell this." So the store leader took the cap off and smelled it, and it was bad. And she said, "Ma'am, I apologize. Why don't you go back to the cooler, get 2 half gallons there on us today." And in the meantime, the store leader rang up for a $10 gift card for her troubles. Well, the guest was so impressed that night at dinner, she said to her husband, "You know, Kwik Trip, they did me right." And her husband said, "Why did you take it to Kwik Trip? It wasn't their milk."
And so, yeah, we do hear things occasionally that, they're just another gas station, or, their fuel's expensive, or different little complaints along the way. The one-offs I don't worry too much about. We're human, we're going to err. If it gets to be a trend, that's when it piques my attention. When I think of Kwik Trip's reputation, I really hope it's a reputation of taking care of our coworkers. You see so many companies build, thrive, and sell, but what happens to the people that built those companies?
Unfortunately, what's happening with the way of the world is a lot of those small mom and pop grocery stores are going away. But those small communities that might be 20, 30 miles away from your closest large big box retailer, those people don't want to travel that far, especially if you're 70 years old or 80 years old. So I think one of our strongest niches will be to be the replacement for those grocery stores in our small rural communities here in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa.
For the first time ever, we're building stores in 6 states, and that presents some challenges.
What keeps me up at night, especially as the guy that's in charge of our culture here at Kwik Trip, is what happens if we get so large that we start to lose that family feel.
I think as we continue to grow and be able to provide services to communities, and the guests welcome us and the cities welcome us, and we can make a difference, we should and are planning to continue to grow.
Will we still sell fossil fuels tomorrow? I think we'll sell fossil fuels for a while. We'll also sell electricity. It's a process. I wanted our coworkers to say thank you for every customer that left their store, and I wanted to do it with a smile. So along the way, I use a smiley face as a reminder to treat our customers good and to do it with a smile and be happy about it. This is the highlight of our day, and it's home to them. And so see you next time.